The Houston Rockets have started 1-2 on the season. So Will and I are going to give our game-by-game analysis, or more so player-by-player analysis on how they got to this point. So stay tuned for this episode of the Bradeaux and Will Show.
All right, and welcome back to an episode of the Bradeaux and Will Show. As Brad touched on in the intro, the Houston Rockets are 1-2 right now, which is obviously not good, especially considering the two L's are two teams that we I think everybody kind of penciled us in on beating, being the Charlotte Hornets and the San Antonio Spurs. So, like Brad said, we're just gonna go player by player and just give what we thought, about those players in the 3 games to start so far. Kind of give some general takes on the team as a whole, and then we'll talk about, what's next for this team. But let's start it off positive because like there is a lot to talk about that's not good going well, but like we can talk about what is going well, and that's Jaylen Green. Brad, what you think about Jaylen Green start to the season?
Yeah, Jalen so far is averaging 26 points per game, 4.7 rebounds, 3 assists. Like in the preseason, I thought his processing skills were better. I thought everything just looked a lot smoother out there for him, and it's carried over into the regular season. What's encouraging for me is, and this part isn't necessarily encouraging, he's been pretty much inefficient, 53.8 true shooting percentage. It's not the best, but even then, he just looks a lot better. He looks more comfortable, and the defense, for the most part, looks very, very real. He's playing very good defense so far. He's holding the people he's guarding under 40% from the field when he's a primary defender, which is very impressive. So not only the defense looks very good, I think he looks a lot better offensively. But when the shots actually do start to fall for him, we're going to see him start to have those 30-plus point games. So far we've seen 28, 29, and 22, if I'm not mistaken. So he looks a lot better, and I'm very happy to see him take these steps so far this year. It's been 3 games, but we'll see how it carries over for the rest of the season. Oh, and one more thing, Will, before I let you know. I'm going to say one more thing. I've liked how in those 2 games the Rockets lost, he looked really good in those fourth quarters. He showed a willingness to take over, had 10-plus points in both of those games. Kind of the Hornets game, hit 2 clutch shots on the stretch. And then in that Spurs game, he willed them back, which was pretty much like a 19-point deficit in that last game. So those are both very encouraging signs.
No, I was going to say, I think that the really noteworthy thing about this is the first time Jaylen Green has started a season well. I know that like the box score, he has like a 54 true shooting, what you said, Brad.
Right.
And like that's obviously not good, but it's 1 to 3 game sample size. But that's also, it's one of those situations where I think you have to put down the box score and watch the game. And he had a rough game against Charlotte. Yeah, let me not sugarcoat it. He was downright awful at times at Charlotte. I didn't appreciate that he was 5 of 15 from 3. Wanted to see him get downhill more than what he did. There was no rim protection. It was Grant Williams at center and Trey Mann at POA. And that's the kind of environment where you should be looking to get downhill and put pressure on the rim. And so I didn't like the fact that he settled for 15 threes. I need Jaylen Green to realize that he is probably one of the 10 most athletic people on the planet. And therefore, like, getting to the rim should be very easy for you, there, especially when it's Trey Mann. Like, I would understand if it was like Drew Holiday or Herb Jones was picking you up, but Trey Mann, blow home right by him, gets to the rim. So start settling for 15 threes that you're not making. So I didn't like that he did that. But ever since the Spurs game, I'm sorry, not the Spurs game, the Hornets game, I thought he looked great. I thought he looked good in the comeback against Memphis. I thought he looked phenomenal in the attempt to come back against San Antonio. One of the things that he did in San Antonio that I appreciated is he stopped settling for threes. That was one thing. I think he took 10 threes against San Antonio, and 2 of those I know for a fact were heaves at like the buzzer. Right. So it's like, what I'm saying? Like, obviously it's going to show you 3 of 10. You don't get cookie points for buzzer beaters. But the point I'm making is he wasn't just chucking, right? Those were heaves that he threw in. And even despite the fact that he was 3 for 10 from 3, he was still efficient. I believe it like a 59 true shooting. And it was very like it was needed. That's what I loved about it. Is like this was not him just going out there stat padding in the fourth quarter when in a blowout win or a blowout L. He like we needed his points. Those were points that he was making within the flow of the game. And then I really really love, like you touched on, Brad, the killer instinct that he had in both the Grizzlies game and the Spurs game in crunch time. Give me the ball and I'll bring this team home. And he did it against the Grizzlies. Wasn't really able to do it against the Spurs. I'm going to talk about why I think that happened as we get later onto the show. But as a whole, like I said, the Hornets game, a little wishy-washy, but I thought he played great against the Grizzlies. I thought he played phenomenal against the Spurs. I love what I'm seeing from his start to the season. Like for him, it's just about like just being consistent. Can we get this version of you the whole season long? Obviously, you don't want to see him have a 54 true shooting, but can we get the version of you, like I said, that's aggressive, that's like the Spurs kept switching Chris Paul onto him, and he realized like, hey, I can blow right by Chris Paul. Can we start seeing him play with that mentality the entire season long? And if he can, I mean, I think the team figures out in the win-loss column, which I think they will. I mean, he'll obviously be in all-star conversations if this is who he is. But like I said, it is just 3 games. I don't want to jump the gun too much on anything that, but kudos to Jalen for his start to the season. Did you have anything else to Jalen before we go to the next person?
Yeah. Last thing I'll say really quickly. Last year, Udoka wanted him to get more 3-point shots into his shot diet, and right now he's taking over 10 a game. And as Will mentioned, we don't want to see him settle from 3, but it is good to see him actually making a lot of these shots. So each game he's played, he's hit at least 3 threes so far. So again, we'll see how it carries over. But encouraging start for Jalen. I don't know who we were going to talk about next, but might as well talk about Sengun. And I'll say this about Alperen Sengun. Amazing first half to start the year. He had 19 and 13 in that first half against the Charlotte Hornets. In that second half, he came out the gate, had 2 quick buckets on Nick Richards, and in the final 22 minutes, he had 2 points. And that's just not going to cut it. I have very high standards for Alperen Sengun. Y'all watch the show. Y'all know my takes on Alperen Sengun. So I have high standards for him, man. It's never hating, but he had Grant Williams switched on to him for the most part of that Charlotte game. And he just, plain and simple, didn't take over that basketball game the way he should have. And it's the reason, the Rockets did not win that game. Not the reason, it's a reason. I expect the Rockets, new guy who's making, $185 million on 5 years to be able to take over that basketball game. So that was that game. And then just as a whole this year, against the Grizzlies, he shot 5 of 13 from the field. And against the Spurs, he had to get benched. He didn't play the final 16 minutes of the game. And as a whole this season, his true shooting percentage, and Will, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's 47 true shooting percentage on the year. And again, it's a 3-game sample. It's nothing to be ultimately worried about, but I will say it's discouraging. I'd like to see more from Alperen Sengun. I thought he looked soft in that San Antonio Spurs game. That's the reason why Ime benched him. And I just don't want to see him get benched, because we used to get mad he was getting benched years prior because it wasn't deserved. And now that's the time where it was like, damn, like, yeah, he kind of needs to stay off the floor. And again, a guy you're paying that much money, you should not get played off the floor. And again, I'm not necessarily worried about Alperen Sengun. I just expect more from him because he is that young guy who I think is going to be really good for this Rockets team for hopefully a very, very long time. So, yeah, that's my take on Alperen Sengun right now. I think he should be doing more. I will say this on a positive note. I like that he's taking those 3 balls now with confidence, a lot less hesitation there. I'd have to look at the numbers. So far, 42.9% from 3. I love that. Keep shooting.
How many attempts total on the season?
2.3, and I know Will has said he wants him to get around 3-ish. I just like that he's taking them. Hopefully it'll increase, but I'm happy he's not hesitating anymore. Jump shot looks beautiful. I'll end that on a positive note. But go ahead, Will.
Yeah, I thought, like you said, first half against the Hornets, it's the same Sengun we saw last season, look dominant in every facet of the game. And then the Hornets in the second half adjusted and had, instead of it was Nick Richards guarding him, it was Grant Hill, who's like a 6'6". Man, he might be exactly 6'6". Like Grant,
he's 6'6". Yeah.
So Grant Williams is not that tall for his for how like short and stocky he is.
Yeah.
And Grant Williams gave him problems. Like, and I know there's like a thread floating out there that like says that it really wasn't really Grant Williams. I don't know, man. If we're gonna excuse that, I don't know what to tell you. I do think that Sengun was getting fouled a bit, so like there is that, but at the same time, it's Grant Williams. Like, um, it's pretty interesting that like it's the short, stocky guys that give Sengun the most problems, like the strong guys, because that's same guy last year who gave him the most problems was Bismack Biyombo. That was the one game I remember last season where I'm like, dude, Sengun just disappeared tonight, and it was when we played Bismack Biyombo. So same thing against the Hornets. Grant Williams just took him out the game. And I mean, when you're getting guarded by a 6'6" forward, so, you're a 6'11" center and your bread and butter is in the paint, gotta be better than that. Like that performance in the second half was not acceptable. And that was a huge reason for why we lost that game. And then it was just like from there, he's kind of been tripping. I will say this against Memphis, I thought his defense was really, I thought his defense was great in Memphis. Friend of the show, Asad, actually made a really good point. And we can talk about it with the next game is like, if I would have told you before the season started that Sengun would have to get benched in crunch time, I think we'd all assume that it would be for defensive reasons. But the funny part is it's been for offense. Like I thought his defense was actually like really good against Memphis. I thought he did a really good job stopping the pick and roll. There was a possession where he like swatted a lob attempt out of bounds. Like he's moving his feet really well, walling up drops. I thought defensively, he's really well. I forgot to mention Jaylen Green's also been really great. I know Brad talked about it, but Jaylen Green's also been really good defense. I think both of our guys who we paid this offseason have taken step forward defensively. But yeah, so like Sengun was good defensively against Memphis. He just couldn't get the shot to fall. And then that unfortunately carried over into San Antonio yesterday. I mean, that's a matchup that he dominated, Wemby last year. He didn't look scared of Wemby at all last season. And then for some reason yesterday he went to the game and he looked scared. I don't know. It was weird to come out there with the energy that he came out with. And then even when Wemby went to the bench, when it was just Zach Collins, he didn't look like he wanted to be physically imposing out there. He was not getting he didn't look as crafty. He looked a step slower. I don't really know what was going through his head at that point in time, but I'll say this: that was the worst game I've ever seen Alperen Sengun play in my entire life, and I think that his benching was very justified. So yeah, but I'll end my plan by saying, even though he's played like I'd say in totality, he has not played well this season. One of those games being, like I said, probably the worst game I've ever seen him play. Even with that in mind, and like I'll say this too: like there's expectations now, right? He's the highest paid player on the roster. He's crowned the best player on the team. Right, that comes with expectations, right? So you're no longer the 16th overall pick, the young guy who no one really knows about. Like, no, man, you're making a lot of money. You're the star. You're the face of the team. That you can't perform. We can't be putting you on the bench in crunch time. You can't perform the way you've been performing so far into the season. If you're making the most money, you're the star of the team. Like that's never gonna work. That being said, though, I have a 2-year sample size of Alperen Sengun being a dominant player who was bar none the best player on the team, and I have a 3-game sample size of him this season of him being got a benchman crunch time. I'm going to defer to the larger sample size. I don't think that we should be pulling the it's over for Sengun. We got to trade him. He's a bust. We got a bad contract guy. I think that's way too premature. Let's get a larger sample size of this before we jump to the conclusion, because it is just 3 games. And like I said, there's an infinitely larger sample size of him being, an all-star caliber player preceding this sample size. So I will tell people to give it a little pause on it's over for Sengun and all those talks. But he has to play better. Like let's not sugarcoat it. He's played bad. He knows he's played bad, and I believe he's gonna be better moving forward. But yeah, that's all I'd say on Sengun. Let's go to Fred then, man. I just jump right into it. I have the love-hate relationship with Fred, and it took me 3 games to remember why I have that love-hate relationship with Fred, because, and I think more than ever this year, it is glaring how much he is not a point guard. He's an elite table setter. He's an elite floor, I wouldn't call him a floor general. He's an elite
game manager.
Game manager. He plays with pace. He keeps the turnovers down. He makes sure the offense executes, but he's not a point guard. Like I'm saying, a point guard is someone who creates advantages and then capitalizes on it in terms of either him scoring or setting his teammates up to score, right? So, for example, this is obviously 2 of the best point guards in our league, but what LaMelo Ball was doing, what John Morant was doing, that's two different levels of point guard play that we just don't have. And I think that's one of the reasons why, like, because our biggest problem is not even our defense right now. Our defense, I think, is actually pretty fine. It is the offense. The offense through 3 games has looked awful. And yeah, it is like you got to look. The head of the snake, the head of the offense is the point guard. You got to look to the point guard, say, hey, man, what's going on with the offense? And yeah, it has not, like Fred, I don't think Fred's running a good offense. Defenses know. I've been saying this since he got here. I've been saying it the whole time. Defenses know that Fred VanVleet has 2 reads when he comes on the court with the ball in his hands, right? He's looking for the center to set the screen. He's going to go over the screen. And when he comes off that screen, he has 2 reads. Either I'm pulling up for 3, pull up for midi, or I'm going to pass the ball to the rolling big. That's it. Doesn't skip pass, doesn't read the floor, just pull up shot, pass it to big. And defenses know that. And so they're shutting that down. That's one of the reasons why his assist numbers are down, because he can't get that off no more. And I'll say this much. I want to talk about Ime later on, but I think that Fred did an awful job at game managing, which is the one thing that I think in the past he's done a really good job at. I think he did a terrible job game managing, specifically against Charlotte, where he, quite frankly, shot us out the game. Was he like 2 of 10 from 3, 3 of 10 from 3?
2 of 11.
2 of 11, yeah. He shot us. I mean, like him and Jalen, I like to say him, Jalen, and Sengun all deserve equal blame for what happened in Charlotte. But Fred VanVleet shot us out that game. Taking bad shots, just not moving the ball. He like I said it on TikTok, for the guy who's like normally very much in control of the offense, he looked out of control. And so that was probably the worst game I've ever seen Fred play. But he followed up 2 nights later with an I don't say equally bad one, but another just bad game against San Antonio. Now I know the box score says he actually played pretty well. I don't think he played well yesterday. I thought he had a good game from like a scoring perspective. I thought he had a bad point guard game. Same thing. He looked sped up. He looked out of control. It looked like he was rushed. And like I said, he's supposed to be the guy who says everybody to slow down. You know what I'm saying? He's supposed to be the veteran guy on the roster. Hey guys, let's slow down. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. He looks like he's one of the young guys right now. And the play that I think lost us the game, and the play that just like infuriated me beyond repair, was coming into the 4th quarter around the 2-minute mark. Jaylen Green has found something that works, right? He's attacking the defender that's guarding him. He's getting down. It's one thing I applauded Jalen for. He wasn't settling for 3s. He was getting downhill. He was attacking the defender. He was getting and ones. He was getting all these athletic finishes. Jalen woke up and realized he's the most athletic guy on the floor. He gets from whatever he wanted to, and it was working. He was carrying us back into the game. As a point guard, it is your job to feed the hot hand. That is like point guarding 1-on-1. When somebody's on a heater, you get the ball to them, and they are not controlling to set that possession, because for the last 3-4 possessions, Jaylen Green is scoring. And even when he wasn't scoring, I thought Jaylen Green made the right pass. There was 2 possessions where him and Dillon kind of ran like a little action, and as a result of the defense committing a Jalen drive, Dillon was wide open. And Jalen just made the pass to Dillon 2 different times. And, Dillon missed one, but he made the second one. And, like, that's good process. 2 wide open shots generated off of Jaylen Green scoring gravity and being a willing passer, right? You get the ball to the hot hand. Fred did not do that in the crunch time. He took the ball, did some, like, nonsense with Dillon Brooks on the side of the court with Wemby and Stephon Castle, which, like, I don't know why you involved Wemby in the action. That doesn't make much sense to me. You want to keep that guy away from the action. He took the ball to Jaylen Green, saying he keep like waved Jaylen Green off, did that. And to me, that's when we lost the game. And so for me, that why I'm so frustrated with that is because, like I said, that's the one thing you're here to do. That's what you're getting paid all this money to do. That's supposed to be what you're good at, and you did the opposite. So yeah, I as a matter of fact, I think for as bad as Sengun has been, I think the worst player so far this season has been Fred, which is like pretty concerning. I would say concerning because I believe he will bounce back, but it's disappointing. That's the right word to use. It's disappointing because of how much he was paid, how much, he's supposed to be the veteran leader on the court, and he's looked, just out of control at times. It's the young guy. So I'm playing there by saying I don't believe it's cooked for him, though. I do think he's going to bounce back. But yeah, like he was a huge reason we lost to the Hornets, and I thought he killed the game. That possession, we took the ball out of Jaylen Green's hands against the Spurs. I thought that was when we lost it. So yeah, I love my playing there.
As Will said, Fred in that first game, his shot selection killed us down the stretch. That was a game that we had won, and they just ended up losing. Fred shot 4 for 18 in that game. Again, 2-11 from three. I thought the shot selection was poor. You can go back and look at those threes and say, okay, those were good shots. But the ones that irritate me is when he's driving to the cup and he knows he can't finish at the rim. He's 5'11", if that. He's trying to make contested layups. And it's like, man, we need a bucket at this point of the game. And this is what we're going to. You're supposed to be our game manager, the smartest player on the court. And this is what we're doing. So it's extremely frustrating to get that from Fred. In a game they lost to a Charlotte Hornets team that was missing a few starters and Brandon Miller that just got hurt and didn't even play the second half. So disappointing first game from Fred, obviously efficiency-wise and decision-making-wise. Better in the second game. I would say just as a whole, Fred is much better on this basketball team, just being an off-ball guy who can hit those catch-and-shoot threes and play really solid defense. I'll say so far this year, his defense has been solid. You can go to all the defensive metrics you want. Player-by-player matchups, he's been solid defensively. That's what I look forward to when I watch VanVleet play. But offensively, again, I can go back to the game yesterday, Will, and there was a play where he got called, or the defender got called for a foul, but he had that pull-up three in transition. That was an awful shot. But the defender…
Let me jump in real quick on that, right? The pull-up three, one thing, and this is another reason where I got really concerned yesterday's game, is that pull-up, it was right before half, and we were in the playback, and we're like, yeah, that's just not a good shot. And like that's one of the reasons we are losing right now, because we're taking bad shots. And so if I'm Ime Udoka, I'm going into halftime saying, Fred, what are you doing? Why are you taking that? Like you're lucky you got fouled there. That ain't a good shot, bro. Like we can get a better look than that. The part that concerns me is we come out of halftime, he does the same thing. So that tells me one of two things. One, they didn't address that at halftime. That was not something they talked about at halftime. So like Fred thinks that he's above the law. Or two, Fred didn't care what Ime Udoka says, and he actually believes he's above the law. Which either one, not good. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I think that's him going out there. Just he looked like one of the young guys. He looked reckless, out of control, and I think that's one of the reasons we lost. So yeah, I'll turn it back over.
Yeah, but Fred is Fred. As a whole, if you look at his numbers, 5.3 assists, 1.3 turnovers. I mean, that's just what he's going to give you. But I need the efficiency to be better. The shot selection to be better. The shot selection is probably the same as last year. If we want to go by that standard, it wasn't good last year, but he was way more efficient. So I need the efficiency to rise for me to be content with Fred VanVleet. And Will and I got on this last podcast, and we were just saying we wanted him to be lifetime Rockets. And,
yeah.
So, we wanted him to, be here next year and all that stuff. But it's got to be better than what we're seeing right now. But I'll end my Fred VanVleet analysis there. We can jump to another story.
No, I want to add one more thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
You talk about the shot selection kind of being the same. One of the his first shot selection was bad last year. Like we can make that very clear. But one of the things that why I was okay with it at times was because if Fred did not shot, right, we only have one other guy out there in Alperen Sengun who's doing something offensively, right? Like I understand if like the team if we've been trying to execute offensively and nothing is working, and we reach a point in time where the offense is stagnating, I understand why Fred would think, okay, let's go out. If no one else is going to do something, I'll go out swinging. I'll go down swinging. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with him taking what would be bad shots. Normally if we're going to go down swinging, nobody else wants to step up. I'm cool with that. The problem is this year, Jaylen has it going. Jaylen is killing it right now. You don't take the ball out of his hands to go do that nonsense. And like, it frustrates me because Fred has said multiple times in the past, he wants to get off ball. It's time to start doing it, man. Jaylen, it looks like he's ready. And I'll say this much. I am maybe like a 10-game sample size of Jaylen Green being this player. For me, before I say I think Jaylen's the best playmaker on the team. Because like I said, half of what playmaking is having a semblance of scoring gravity that we know Fred does not have, and we know Jaylen has. And Jaylen, like I said, I saw him make reads yesterday using that scoring gravity that I know he hasn't made in the – or no, I take back, Jaylen has made them, but he made them a bit more consistently. I'll put it like that. If Jaylen does that consistently, like say for like another 10, 15 game sample size, yeah, I'm gonna say that he's the best playmaker on the team now. I'm gonna say that, and like I think that if that's the case, which I think the full evolution of this team anyways is gonna be with Jaylen with the ball in his hands. I think that's when it's gonna be like, all right, Fred, time for you to get off ball for real this time. Like it's got to put the ball in Jaylen's hands now. So yeah, I don't know. Who do you want to talk about next?
We'll jump to another starter who I think has been very disappointing. We'll talk about Jabari Smith Jr. And let me say this. I want to say I came on Twitter and was like, this is the guy I think is going to have the biggest leap on the team. He had a good – was laughing. But it's crazy. I really thought the defense was going to take a huge leap. The shooting is the shooting. He shot 36% last year. He's supposed to see a little improvement. It's been 3 games, but just as a whole, I thought he's been weak, man. I think he's been weak. I like him a lot, archetype wise, and I'm not giving up on him by any means, but I need to see that shot. I need to see some semblance of that shot. I haven't seen him make a single mid-range jumper in the preseason or in the season this year. I have to go look at the numbers. Well, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think I've seen him make a single midi. And this is supposed to be one of his bread.
No, he made one yesterday.
He made one yesterday. Okay, thank you.
I don't know if he just made one, but I know he for sure at least made one yesterday.
Okay, that may be the only one because this is something I've been keeping track of. I will say this: he came off an elevator screen last night from a Jaylen Green pass and hit a 3. It was gorgeous. The Spurs announcer even said it was JJ Redick-ish. So, stuff like that. I want to see him do things like that. But more times than not, and I'll say this too, against the Grizzlies, 16 rebounds, 14-16. That was encouraging. But man, that first game was really bad. And that last game, down the stretch, it's tough to see him miss that 3 in the clutch and followed up with that mid-range miss as well. Those are shots I want to see him make, especially when he's wide open. So, yeah, you could only make so many excuses for these guys. I'll sit here and say, yeah, he's 21. But yeah, at a certain point, you do want to see results. And I hate to compare him to Paolo Banchero and Chet Holmgren, but when he's drafted right behind those guys, it's tough. It's like, damn, we're not seeing anything close to that level of production from Jabari Smith Jr. And he doesn't have to be those guys. That's not his. I don't think he'll ever reach that level. But I still think he could be a very good player and his archetype. Lockdown defender, very good 3-point shooter. He's 6'11", so he can be a great help rim side protector. Far from giving up on this guy, but I mean, I just want to see some level of production, and I'll end it there.
Yeah, I'll start positive and say I thought that he was one of, if not the best player on the team for Memphis. One of the reasons we were able to come back against Memphis, and we'll talk about the other guys later, was that guys like Jabari, Tari, Amen came out there and just injected energy into the team, second effort, stuff like that. And that kind of started with Jabari. He was one of the main guys doing that. Matter of fact, I'm gonna pull up the numbers exactly so I can
while you pull up the numbers, I wanted to add really quickly. He's taking 10 shots a game, 4 of those being threes. On his 2-point attempts right now, let me make sure I'm not getting this wrong. Yeah, he's 2-point. Yeah. A little bit under 40% from twos. Again, from a guy who's 6'11". That's got to be better, man. And he's shooting 25% from 3, 33% from the field.
Yeah.
No.
So yeah, the jumper was not falling against Memphis, but I thought one of the reasons why he was so effective though was because he was one of the main guys who just had the I'm not gonna lose gene. That was what he did that day. So he had 16 rebounds, 6 of which were offensive. And I thought that we needed those second chance efforts, those putback opportunities. I thought he was, like I said, his energy was infectious. I thought he was one of the biggest reasons why we came out. If your jumper's not going to fall because he was 5 of 13 from the field, 0-3 from 3 that night, jumper's not falling, find other ways to impact the game. And he did that. 16 boards, 4 assists, like I said, 2 blocks, 6 offensive rebounds. That's how you impact the game, even if your jumper isn't falling. So kudos to him for Memphis. That being said, didn't feel his impact in Charlotte. Didn't feel his impact against the Spurs. I like the pull-up 3 that he had, that Jaylen gave him on when we were on that run, because that was he's walking into a pull-up shot. Jabari, we know he can shoot. So I like that he took that shot, and he missed it, left it a little short. It is what it is. Appreciate you getting the offensive rebound, but the moment that he got that rebound, everybody was thinking, "Oh, this is going back to Jaylen." Because like I said with Fred, Jaylen's on a heater. Jaylen has been going crazy this whole game, right? Especially in the fourth quarter that we're actually outscoring the Spurs in. We're on this run, and it's mainly been off the back of a guy like Jaylen Green. Let's get the ball to him. Instead of giving it to Jaylen, he goes right back up with it, bricks it. That's where I'm like, all right, I need you. Don't do that no more. And I said it in a space. I was like, imagine if in the James Harden era, if Trevor Ariza took a three, okay, we know we can shoot, missed the three, got the rebound, took a pull-up midi, and James Harden's right there. We'd be like, what are you doing? Why, like, get the ball to James? Like, you know what I'm saying? You missed it, cool, great rebound. Let's get back to the point guard. Get back to the guy who has the ball in his hands a lot. Let's run it again. You know what I'm saying? Let's try something different. We call that crazy. So yeah, I didn't like the to go back up with it. I'll say this much: it is year 3 for Jabari now, and like it's time for him to start showing what he is actually, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? The young, I think the only player on this team who really gets the young player tax to full effect, obviously, is Reed. And I think Amin and Cam deserve a little bit of it because they are just year 2 guys. My year 3 and up guys, year 3, year 4 guys, like it's kind of like it's nothing. There's no more we can talk about. Like there's no more passes. There's no more excuses. It's time to start winning, right? Like we can't rebuild forever. At a certain point in time, you either take that turn to the next step. And so for Jabari, yeah, I'm gonna need to see you. Like I'm starting to question if the version of Jabari that we saw at Auburn is ever who he's going to be in the NBA. He might have to find a different role for himself, which is fine. You can. There are plenty of guys who reinvent themselves in the NBA and are successful at it. So I'm not saying that his career is cooked if that's not who he is, but I am starting to ask myself, is that who he is? Because through 2 seasons in the NBA and now 3 games into this season, that's not who he is. And quite frankly, that's not how he wants to play, it seems, right? It seems like he kind of wants to operate out of the post and in the mid-range area. He's only taking 4 threes a game. I don't know. Like you would think that this would be somebody who putting up threes at pretty high volume and nailing them at a pretty high clip. And then on defense, you think he was the 1 through 5 switch defender. And I think we kind of realized like halfway through his rookie season, the 1 through 5 wasn't going to happen. And so now we're kind of at the point where it's like, okay, like it's not going to be 1 through 5, but like, can you really lock in on your position? Like in theory, he should be somebody we should be able to put on Wemby and like live with that. And like I said, so far it hasn't really been the case. But like I said, I'm not saying he's a bad NBA player. I think he can still be a starter. I'm just saying the version of him that we thought we drafted may not be who he is, and how he wants to play. But 3 games, give him all of this year to I get this. I guess at this point, prove me wrong. Obviously, I would much rather Jabari be really, really good for my basketball team. So yeah, but I was disappointed with his performance. Obviously against the Spurs, I thought that he kind of iced Jalen out a little bit there when he didn't get the ball back to him.
Yeah, I have nothing else to say about Bari. We don't have to talk much about Dillon Brooks. He's the last starter we haven't talked about, but I want to say I'm not irritated at all with Dillon Brooks' play. He's been good. Highest plus minus on the team, 12.7 plus minus so far. He's been solid. He's doing what he's supposed to do, hitting threes, playing defense. That's all I had to say about him. I'm sure Will should say.
Some good, some bad. He's not. Yeah. He hasn't been good enough or bad enough for me to highlight him in any. I think like especially considering the bar for him is probably a bit lower than others. I think he's fine. Like it's like some good, some bad, a little bit of both.
Yeah, and I'll correct myself. It wasn't 12.7; it's a 12 plus minus, but tip for tat. Now we can talk about Ime Thompson. He's the next guy off the bench. Very impressive first half of the Charlotte Hornets game. There are a lot of things that I like to see from Ime Thompson. Very active defensively, running in transition, knocking down a 3, I believe. But since then, correct me if I'm wrong, Will. That Memphis game, I'll say this against San Antonio, it was underwhelming for sure. 1 point, and just didn't really make that much of an impact as a whole. And I expect a lot more from him. I know he's only a year or 2, but I have high expectations for him, and I think he's a really good basketball player. And I just expect him to impact the game a lot more than what he has. And last year we saw him highly efficient from the floor, and as of right now, he's only shooting 39% from the field, and that's just not his game. He's taking almost 2 attempts from 3 a game, and I will say this: I'm happy he's not necessarily hesitating when he's taking these. He's pulling them, and he's wide open when he's pulling them. But I mean, he's shooting 20% from 3 right now. Hopefully that improves whenever it does. But I'll say this: what I've noticed with him on the court, when he's on the perimeter above the break and not in the corner, and he does not have the rock, that defender is just going to sag necessarily, not in the paint. Obviously, 3 seconds in the paint. It's going to be right next to the paint. And it really does clog up everything. So if he's not going to be a pick and roll guy, if he's not going to be in the dunker spot, or if he's not going to be cutting from the corner, I don't want to see him above the break without the rock, because y'all can look for this too. In those first 3 games, it just clogged up everything. So they got to find a better way to utilize him more often.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't have much to say about Ime either. I think that he was okay against Charlotte. Wasn't good, wasn't bad. I thought he was great. I thought I'll kind of talk about him and Tari here, because I kind of feel the same way about Tari. I thought both Tari and Ime, so I kind of gave them cold game ball for what they did against Memphis. I thought that their defense, energy, second effort, all of the above, I thought that they were phenomenal. Like, it was beautiful to me watching those 2 guys who are as versatile defensively, as athletic as they are, the guys who chase after the rebounds like that. Like, it was really cool seeing those 2 guys take the court together after like a year of like speculating what that would look like. It was as good as advertised. I think they were one of, if not the biggest reason for why the Rockets were able to pull off the comeback against the Grizzlies, because, like I said, they just came in and just injected energy to the team. They were making rotations on defense, getting out of transition, making plays on both ends of the court. And I love what I saw from both Tari and Ime. Even Tari, because I'll talk about him real quick. I love the fact that he was letting the 3-ball go against Memphis. I think he was 3 or 4 from 3.
He was.
Yeah, so like, yeah, I loved both those 2 guys. I love what I saw from them. Tari, same with Dillon against San Antonio. I thought Tari was solid, but wasn't nothing like great. Never really nothing to write home about. But Ime did disappear against San Antonio, which, I mean, I don't know. Like, for me, he's like reason 5 or 6 that we lost against San Antonio. So like, it is what it is. Like I said, to a degree, him, Cam, and Reed will get just him a little bit less. I expect a lot more from him, but I will give those guys it's a little bit of like, all right, it is your rookie. Ime and Cam, this is year 2 for you guys, so they get a little bit more leeway from me. But yeah, as a whole, I'm fine with what I've seen from him. I think he's gonna look a lot better than he did yesterday. Moving forward, like it's not really crazy to me.
Yeah, I'll speak on Tari Eason really quick. Slow first game, minute restriction, 13 minutes, didn't really do anything. Those last 2 games, as was mentioned, it is really fun to watch a man out there with Tari Eason. That duo is so fun to watch. And again, it was a huge reason why they went on that huge run against Memphis. But I'll say this, in that last game, he had 3 steals and 1 block, and I want to say 18 minutes. That's spectacular. That's what Tari Eason does. He ruins passing lanes. He's active hands on ball, and just gets a ton of steals. Like he's everywhere. And he had a really and Will mentioned there was a play the night against Memphis where Tari got the steal and the men kind of picked it up and took it coast to coast for a layup. And that's what I want to see from that duo right there. Getting stops and running in transition. They're really a perfect fit with each other. So I've been really impressed with Tari so far, and I can't wait for him to be able to ramp up his minutes. Hasn't played 20 minutes yet since coming back. Encouraging that he was able to play the back-to-back. But, I'd like to see him getting 20-plus minutes a night because he's that much of an impact player. Will and I have said at times, he's a top 3 most impactful player on this basketball team. So, and especially if he's going to be knocking down those threes. So I like what I've seen from Tari so far. Really good game against Memphis. I love what he did against San Antonio as well. But and we probably have 2 more guys we could talk about today. We could talk about Reed and who else?
That's probably it.
That's probably it. Yeah, I mean, I'll say it's about
Reed.
Jock's been solid filling in for Steven, but I can't wait for to see Steven back. They're going to be a better team with Steven on the floor. But for Reed Sheppard, I mean, a slower start to his NBA career. Again, nothing to be concerned about. He's a rookie. NBA is a different speed, and point guard is probably the most difficult position to jump into at the NBA level. So again, Reed hit those back-to-back threes against Memphis. That was fun to see. But yeah, as a whole, he only played 6 minutes against San Antonio. Played a little bit in the second quarter, and then didn't play again. It's gonna happen. He's a rookie. We saw it happen with Cam. We saw it happen with Ime. It's a learning curve, The shot has not looked as advertised just yet. Again, early career, nothing to be worried about. looking forward to see him improve in the future.
Yeah, I'll keep it short with Reed, no pun intended. I think that Reed, there's a such thing as being too selfless of a teammate that it hurts your team. And I think Reed is suffering from that right now. I think that Reed is like so hyper focused on making the right play and not taking bad shots and just being a good teammate that I think he's overlooking. Like sometimes the right play is to say, I'm a dude who just shot 50 something percent from three on good volume earlier this year at Kentucky. I can shoot the rock. Let me just pull up, right? Like I have a shot. Let me just shoot it, right? Because there have been times through these 3 games where Reed has had a good look, turns it down because he's trying to make the right pass, the right read. He doesn't want to, do too much. He doesn't want to be the reason his team loses. But like when he's out there, I want him to play his game. I wouldn't have drafted him if I didn't want him to play his game. And so like with me, like I want to see Reed let him fly with confidence. Like I'm cool. Make or miss, we'll live with it, bro. I mean, if the misses start becoming a problem, we can evaluate it from there. But I mean, he shot, like I said, he shot 50% from three. You know what I'm saying? We saw what he was killing the mid range in preseason and summer league. Like I'm gonna ride with that guy being aggressive. I'm cool with that. But the positives, he's thrown some really good passes in his limited minutes so far. I thought his defensive activity was a huge contributing factor in the comeback against Memphis. And so, yeah, like not all bad from him. And like I said, he is a rookie. He has his first game jitters. He's probably, he's probably scared, and that's fine. He's a rookie playing on an NBA court for the very first time. It's going to be adjustment period. It's going to take some time for him to get the jitters out of his system and get comfortable. And so, like, I'm not like he is like the least I am concerned about anybody or on the roster right now because of like what I just illustrated. But moving forward, I do want to see Reed be more aggressive. I want to see Reed not be so hesitant to let the three go or get to his own shot. Be a little bit more selfish. Like I'm not saying abandon being the good teammate that you are, but be a bit more selfish, man. Be a bit more like you first. But yeah, that's all I have to say. I think it's. Oh no. One more thing I want to talk about. I said I was going to talk about Ime.
Real quick, before you talk about Ime, can I throw in a quick reset?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about his defense. I thought his defense has been impressive. And I'll give a quick stat for you guys. He's holding guys, as the primary defender. People are taking 5.5 shots on him a game, only making 1.5 shots. So again, early in his career, but he was very active at Kentucky defensively, very handsy. Saw us staying in front. And it was a little bit worried in summer league with him staying in front, but I'm excited to see him, play really effective defense so far this year. I thought he's very impressive. That was the only thing I was going to add. I'll let you talk about Ime.
Yeah, real quickly, I think that Ime's rotations at times, especially against San Antonio yesterday, little confusing. We had a stretch where we went 9 minutes without scoring a single basket in the second quarter, and I think a lot of that was because of the lineup out there. I said there was 3 people who iced Jalen yesterday. I thought Fred was one of them. I thought Jabari kind of iced him out a little bit when he missed that first jumper, got the rebound, put it back up. And I thought Ime iced him. And I think Ime iced him a couple of times, but mainly in that second quarter where Jalen left the first quarter. Jalen had 9 points on 4 shots in the first quarter. I get that, because I think he played 9 minutes in the first quarter. So I get that you want to let him rest, recover. It's the second night of a back-to-back. I get that. But Jaylen Green is 22 years old. I promise you he's not tired. And if he's that tired in game 3 of 82 to where he can't check in sooner into the second quarter of a game where we're losing and we can't score, like the game is literally at risk of getting out of hand at this point. We need to change something up. If the guy who was killing it for me in the first quarter is so tired that he can't check back in, we have a larger problem. But like I don't think he was tired. I think he was fine. And so I think Ime needed to recognize, like, hey, this guy was killing it. He was on fire in that first quarter. Leave him in the game for a little bit. Even if he burns up to exhaustion by halftime, that's fine. We'll make sure he gets rested at halftime. But in the first half, we're trying to stay in this game. We're going 9 minutes without scoring a basket, and it's looking bad. Yeah, like put in the guy, one of the only guys on the court who actually was able to get a shot up and make it. Like I need that guy on the court. And so, yeah, I think Ime kind of iced him and let Jalen down in that department. And then, like, I think the offensive sets have been Yeah, like I don't think we've opened the bag at all offensively. And like I know Ime was saying like he didn't want to open the bag last year because guys were still young, inexperienced, and we're still teaching them good habits. But I think they're ready. I think they're more than ready to open the bag up a little bit more. And that just may not be Ime Udoka's strong suit. That's what I've kind of been thinking for a minute now. But like I'm starting to feel a bit more like that. But like that's fine. Like I want to make it very clear that that does not mean that I feel any less confident in him as my head coach or that I want somebody else as my head coach. No, I think Ime Udoka to this very moment is probably the most important person on the team. I love what he's done for us. Mike D'Antoni, I said on the Twitter TL today, Mike D'Antoni is one of the most brilliant offensive minds to ever touch this planet. He like quite literally revolutionized how basketball is played with Steve Nash, and then he came to Houston and killed it with James Harden. Like no one will ever question Mike D'Antoni's offensive pedigree. Mike D'Antoni saw the most success he's ever had in his career the year he was paired up with a defensive coordinator in Jeff Bzdelik, who like that's Jeff Bzdelik. He was the quarterback of our defense. The reason we were so good defensively in 2018 was because of Jeff Bzdelik. Obviously, we had the defensive personnel for it, but the reason why that person, I mean, James Harden was out there playing great defense, and it was because of Jeff Bzdelik. And so like what I'm trying to make is Mike D'Antoni, legendary coach, great coach, great offensive coach. Even he needs some help, at his weaker point, and it was defense. There's something wrong with Ime saying, yeah, man, I'm a great defensive coach. Because I think our defense so far has looked great. I think that he does his job in terms of accountability, in terms of inspiring and getting the best out of people. I think the reasons why we come out of halftime looking so rejuvenated and ready to shrink these leads is because of what Ime does at halftime. That being said, maybe offense isn't your thing. And if it isn't, that's fine. Let's just get somebody whose job it is to run the offense. And you can just focus on defense, rotation, stuff like that. And, being the leader of men, that's what he's so good at. Let somebody else run the offense because right now it looks bad. That's the reason we're losing games right now. That is the biggest reason that this team is 1-2 right now is the offense sucks. And so, yeah, like maybe that's just not Ime's bag. And if it isn't, like I said, that's fine. It's not an indictment on Ime. It just means we need to get somebody who can specialize in that department. And so, yeah, that is all I had to say about so far. Last thing. No, I got one more thing I want to say.
Go ahead.
Last thing.
And real quick before you go, is it still on Ime Udoka?
No, I was with you. So if you want to talk about email, I'll let you go.
Yeah, I'll say one last thing about email. Quick praise. And the Rockets did this last year. We called them the fake comebacks. But Ime has a tendency to read how the game is going and throw in a successful lineup to close the game to give them a really big comeback. At a certain point in time, I'd like to see them complete these comebacks, but I just want to give him props for benching the people who are struggling, and therefore giving the Rockets the best lineup to close the game and make those comebacks. But again, they're still fake comebacks until they're able to.
They did it against Memphis.
Oh yeah, that was a really good comeback. I guess more so like when they're getting killed in that fourth quarter and they make a ridiculous comeback. It happened a ton last year, but yeah, no, props to him. And more so about when they really bench somebody. They didn't really bench anybody against Memphis. But that's what I was praising. Go ahead.
Yeah. Last thing I want to say, and this is not even really basketball related. When Jeremy Sohan goes into his, the media availability before the game and says F Houston, but he didn't say F. He used the actual word. To me, that losing to the Spurs because of like the rivalry we have is never going to be good. And like the West, it's a bloodbath this year. You got to take care of business every single night because look at the standings right now. 1 and 2, we're the 11th seed already. Like it's a couple of teams that are undefeated in the West right now. And I mean, I know it's early on, so like seeding today is probably going to look totally different in 50 games. But the point I'm like, we all know the West is not going to be easy this year. So dropping games to bad teams you should be beating is never going to be a good thing. But okay, whatever. If we just lost to the Spurs in a hard fought battle, it is what it is. The moment Jeremy Sohan says F Houston, to me it no longer becomes all right. Regular season game. That's a playoff game now, bro. Like that's a game you got to go into with like a real sense of urgency, some real pride, because he just insulted the city that you guys live in. The fans who come out every single night to support you, who buy them jerseys, buy tickets, buy the merch, buy the t-shirts, the hats, everything that the people purchase to support this, and they support this team through thick and through thin. When we were winning 17, 20 games a season, people were still going to the game, still supporting. You know what I'm saying? Like we've been with this team every step of the way through through this rebuilding process. Have your fans back more. And they didn't have, outside of, like I said, Jaylen Green, Campbell Moore hooped really well. I thought Tari Eason was really good. I think Dillon Brooks played well to close the game. Outside of that, them guys didn't have our back. And that's what disappointed me so much about that L was they didn't have my back. And if somebody saying F Houston doesn't make your blood start boiling, if that doesn't piss you off, if that doesn't make you want to come out there with some real energy, get off my team. You know what I'm saying? Like it's no place for you on the Rock. If that's the energy you're gonna have against somebody who just said F your city, that's crazy to me. And so yeah, bottom line is they got spanked. Dude disrespected us before the game, after the game, all that good stuff. I needed like a 30-point blowout tomorrow. Like it's got to be something like crazy. But yeah, now I'm done.
I'm done as well. But yeah, like we said, Will and I are going to try to come on here a little more. I appreciate y'all. 1-2 start to the season, not ideal. So we'll see how they are the next time. Will and I come on the show. But as always, we appreciate y'all for tuning in. We'll be back soon. And that was an episode of the Bradeaux Show.